What up, Pod Squad? Coming back at you with another Mondays with Mehoff here. Fashionably late, but we are still getting it in today. I know we're all kind of wrapping up the end of the workday as we speak, but just wanted to give you guys a couple of key points to listen to or think about as we head into Monday night's game with the 1-3 Raiders heading into Arrowhead to face against the 3-1 Chiefs tonight. So not a whole lot of deep insight for you guys. I think this game is pretty textbook as far as what we would probably expect. Spoiler alert, I'm picking the Chiefs because they're a much better football team. The Raiders did get their first win of the season last week against the Broncos in kind of a surprise game, but the Chiefs are still looking dominant. I mean, they pretty much ended the game early against the Buccaneers last week, so I think you take Patrick Mahomes in a primetime game, especially against a bad defense, and I don't think you really think twice about it. So overall, as far as people you would feel comfortable starting or playing, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of a surprise. But for those of you that are still waiting on tonight's game, like I am with at least one of my leagues myself, as far as what's going to determine your win or loss this week, I think Mahomes, QB-wise, should easily be a top quarterback one. It's a terrible defense, like I said. I don't think they can stop much, and Mahomes has just been otherworldly as normal to start the year. I also expect Derek Carr still to be a low-end quarterback one, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're needing, a 15 to 20-point game out of him tonight. I think you should feel pretty good. Honestly, I just expect this game to be kind of a blowout early with the Chiefs in pretty good control, even if it's only by like 10 points or 14. And I expect Carr to have to throw the ball a lot tonight to try to keep up. So don't be afraid starting him. I think you should feel good if he's the guy you're waiting on to bring you back in a matchup tonight. In terms of running backs, I know Josh Jacobs had a career game last week. It was 144 yards on the ground, which is apparently a career high. He did have 2 touchdowns on the ground. I think he had 31 more yards through the air, and he had his first 40 or more yard rush since his 2019 rookie season, which is crazy to see, just that he hasn't done it in recent years. So while that was great, it was really, really good to see the volume for him with 30-plus touches. I do think that's an outlier versus the norm. I just think the Raiders are going to be game scripted out in this game where they're not going to run the ball as much. I think that could lead into him being used in the receiving game a little bit more, so maybe they get some dump-offs and he has, a short yardage touchdown or something like that. So I don't think that he's somebody you just bench, but I think you're going to feel like he's more of a flex or like a touchdown dependent upside guy. So it's not going to be another 100-plus yard game. I believe the over-under for him right now on the week is 60.5 rushing yards, which I know Tyler's the expert on the betting side, but if I'm getting into this a little bit, I would definitely take the under. I think 60.5 is doable for most running backs, but Kansas City is surprisingly the number 1 rushing defense this week based off of last week's dominance, especially with Tampa Bay. But they are very, very good, especially in the front 7, so don't be surprised if that's the case. And they just might not get a lot of opportunities to run the ball before they're behind by enough that they have to start turning to the pass and kind of going for the garbage time to prevent the blowout. So not loving the 60.5 and above. Call me crazy. I don't know how Tyler would feel about that. On the flip side, though, I would take, he's got a 19.5 over-under for receiving yards. And like I talked about, I think they're going to have to mix in some screens and find ways to get him involved to keep moving the offense. So expect, 3 catches for him might be enough to get you to the 20-yard mark. So I would take the over on receiving, the under on rushing. Sticking with running backs on the Kansas City side of the ball, CEH, he still feels like a solid RB2. I know he's currently an RB1 on the season based on his fantasy usage with touchdowns, but I do think he still would feel like a solid RB2 this week. So if you've held on and he's one of your last guys, still think it's possible. I mean, it's going to depend on the touchdown, obviously, because I don't think he's getting 100-plus yards every single week without, adding the touchdown points in there too. But don't be surprised, even if you're starting him, you're probably going to pull your hair out once or twice, thanks to Pacheco. I think they're going to continue to mix him in. I would expect probably like a 60-40 split tonight in favor of CEH, just because, again, I think the Chiefs will be up and handling it early where they're going to want to mix in their young guy and just give him some more experience. I would assume the edge goes to CEH in terms of yards, but honestly, I think the end of the night is going to depend on just who ends up getting a touchdown, because I'm sure at least one of them will. And you could have a really, really good game from CEH, but Pacheco gets that short yardage touchdown and sneaks it in. So who knows? Feel good about starting CEH if I have to, though. I think 10 points is pretty safe for you in a standard league even, and with a touchdown, it could turn into more PPR-wise. He's been used in the receiving game surprisingly decent this year, more than people would have expected. So not shying away from it. I'm going to continue riding the hot hand with him while we can. Lastly, as far as the receiving options, obviously you have Devontae Adams. You're starting him. He's a lock. He's had a kind of quiet start to the year, but it's still been solid. quiet in terms of his performance relatively versus past seasons. He's still doing well. I think especially in PPR, he'll be a monster tonight. I think Carr will look his way a lot. And with Renfrow potentially coming back from the concussion, I don't trust Renfrow, but I think having him back even would be enough to maybe get Devontae a little bit more room to move around in. As far as the only other option you really want to consider starting, obviously Darren Waller. For those of you that had him, you're starting him. You're not really rolling on another tight end at this point. But I do think, even though Waller hasn't exploded like people have hoped, that the Chiefs can be beat across the middle of the field and in the secondary. So this could be an interesting game for Waller. Like I said, they're going to have to throw a lot. So you just would love to see him score and make something happen this week. But I think he could even make it work with some extra targets and some higher volume this week. So on the other side of the ball with Kansas City, obviously Travis Kelce is a no-brainer. You're starting him no matter what. But I think if Juju starts up, which as of now he's questionable but expected to go, I think you start him with confidence as a wide receiver 3 with upside. He is number 2 in targets, routes run, yardage for the Chiefs, everything behind Kelce. So the clear wide receiver 1 for the team, which hasn't turned into a ton of fantasy success, but he's had 8 or more targets in 3 out of 4 games this year, and he's done pretty well considering he hasn't even scored a touchdown. So, I mean, I think if he scores once, we're talking about a very, very different week, and it'd be enough to push him to that, 12 to 15 point threshold. So I think it's doable. I think if you have him and you don't have a lot of other better options, or you've had some issues with injuries like I have, I think Juju is not a terrible option. So beyond that, I'm going to check on my rabid dogs. Hey, you two, do you mind? We're doing a live show. And I think you stay away from any other Chiefs receiver beyond that. I'm not trusting Sky Moore. I'm not trusting MVS. I'm not trusting Nicole Hardman, anything crazy like that. So that's pretty much it. It's kind of everything that you guys would expect in terms of who to start and not start. This is a much easier no-brainer this week. As I mentioned, I am taking the Chiefs. I would take them pretty easily, depending on where the money line ends up at before the game tonight. But for those of you that watched the video last week, we did finally take our first loss on the season, so I'm now 4-1 on Monday Night Football. We're going to hopefully right the ship this week and keep it going, and we'll see how Monday Night Football primetime game predictions go by the end of the season. And that's all we got for this week. So going forward, I'll make sure I get these back out on Fridays. It was a little bit of a crazy weekend with some birthday stuff going on, some busy plans and everything, so we're a little late on the Monday night, but we'll keep it going for you so you have some extra stuff to watch. If you haven't checked out Tyler's Prop It Like It's Hot video from this last week, check it out. He'll have another one coming shortly. And yeah, make sure to tune in. We have our next episode coming tomorrow night for our full-length episode. This week's draft is a best Disney movies draft, so if you want to toss your teams in for that, if you want to, let us know any predictions or any questions for the week, please feel free to let us know, and we will bring some more content to you guys soon. Thank you.